Hello, everyone. Okay.
Hi there.
Thank you all for showing up. You're already doing what I'm going to ask you to do anyway, which is to mute yourselves. There are quite a lot of folks that we have here for this run-through webinar. So yeah, we really appreciate that. And thanks again for your patience with, we just had some technical stuff. We had to get it all sorted out. Also, if you could turn off your video while this is going on, that'll make things a bit easier on our end as well. Anything that we don't want to hear from you, that's why we mute the audio there. Hopefully any feedback or any of that stuff is will get sorted out. So my name is Jonathan. I'll be running through this presentation with you, and I'm also going to be joined by Helly here. You want to say hello?
Hi, everyone.
Okay. So if you have any thoughts or questions or concerns or anything like that, you can just pop something in the chat. We'll try to get to everything that we can, but again, there are a lot of folks here for this one, so we'll just kind of do what we can do and sort of go from there. Hopefully there'll be a Q&A at the end, and we'll hopefully try to get stuff there, and Helly will be answering your questions as we're going along. All right. So thanks to everybody for being with us for all. Helly, you have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to also send my thanks for everybody for joining in, wherever you are around the world, and we hope that you get a lot out of this session. And feel free to put all your your questions in the chat box, and Jonathan and myself will do our best to answer them as we go along. But as Jonathan's presenting, it'll be great if you could just all mute your mics like Jonathan has mentioned, and also just to turn off your videos just so it minimizes the bandwidth so we don't experience any issues with latency. So I'll hand it over back to you, Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks to everybody. So what we're doing here is our webinar. This is going to be a 1 hour kind of overview of Hindenburg Journalist PRO and how it works and our kind of approach to why we have designed the software to work in this way. And so the entire approach to this is making a recording program that is specific for making podcasts. So other recording programs that are made for music or other things can do all these incredible things. They have these wonderful features, but maybe you don't need to do that. And so everything about Hindenburg is supposed to be streamlined to give you exactly what you need, okay? So with that, I'm gonna just share my screen here. Okay, and talk to you about the language of podcasting. Okay, so we're gonna need to cover some basics right at the beginning, and everybody is at a different point with their familiarity with recording programs. Some folks have been doing this for years. Some folks might not know, how to arm a track or anything like that, okay? So we're gonna go through a kind of basic overview of it all. Give me 1 sec here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Biggest Ideas in the Universe. I'm your host, Sean Carroll. Today's big idea, I'm pretty sure, is going to be one of your favorites.
Okay, sorry about that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Biggest Ideas in the Universe. I'm your host, Sean Carroll. Today's big idea, I'm pretty sure, is going to be one of your favorites. It's definitely one of my favorites. The idea is gravity, by which we mean, of course, general relativity, Einstein's theory of gravity.
Okay, so what we're going to be talking about here is podcasting if you are doing this with a single host, meaning it's just you, and you're putting your voice out there to the world, saying, you know, whatever it is that you want to say. So we're going to start off here with just how to do some basic things, such as arm a track and how to select a microphone and how to do, you know, recording to just get your audio picked up by the program, and then how to do a punch-in. And then we're going to talk about some of these things you may have heard about, like pre-roll and all of that, okay? That's what we're going to do now. Okay, so for those unfamiliar, this is Hindenburg right here, okay? And it probably looks like a number of recording programs that you may have seen, but there are some you know, unique differences, all right? So for those unfamiliar with how to do any of this, and if this looks like a spaceship, here, over here on the left side of the screen, we have the different tracks of audio. So this is where if you had two people speaking, they would be on separate tracks, okay? And there are certain things that you need to do over here that are, you know, kind of universal, all right? So the first one is this little red icon right here. This is the track. And so when you click on this, you'll see that it's turned red and that we've armed the track, okay? So that's what we mean when we say that, arming the track, okay? These other buttons here, mute and solo. Mute is if you wanted to turn this track off, that you'd want to do that. Maybe if you wanted to isolate other tracks or to hear other things together when you have a few tracks together. Solo is when you want to hear it alone. This one here we'll get to a bit later. This is dealing with effects and all of that. And this, there's a drop-down menu here, which we'll also get to a little bit later, which is some more kind of unique effects to Hindenburg. So one major difference between this and other programs is that this is all contained in one window, meaning you're not toggling through other windows like edit, mixing windows and things like that. It's sort of all meant to be right here. So the first thing, once we arm the track, you see that my voice is being picked up here, right? And when I turn this off, it's not being picked up anymore, okay? So the track is active, but that doesn't mean that we're actually recording once that happens, once I turn this on. It just means that it's picking it all up. And whenever you're dealing with audio, you have to tell you have to deal with two things. One, what's coming in and where is it going? So you have to tell any recording program what microphone you want to have picked up and then where you want it to go, okay? So here in selecting the microphone, you know, everyone's going to have different cases. Everyone's going to have different setups and all that. It's going to be a little bit, you know, unique to you all. If you have a USB microphone, you plug it in. Let's say you had 3 microphones plugged in to an interface or something like that. You need to tell the program which track do you want to go on which microphone, okay? So that's what this little drop-down menu is down here. And if I click on this, it gives me some different options of what's plugged into Hindenburg, okay? So I'm gonna select this first one because this is my particular setup and my microphone is plugged in right here. And so when I'm speaking into this microphone, into the program, okay? So when I turn this on, now it's picking up my sound, okay? And so here, there are key shortcuts for all of these things, but I'm just going to show you. If you come down here, this is the transport window. This has some different controls that you can control. Again, you can do this all with keyboard shortcuts, but for the purpose of showing people, once we hit this blinking red icon, you'll see that it's in our active recording right now, okay? And when it's doing that, it records in red, just like the old on-air sign on recording studios, okay? So that's my voice that's being picked up. And if you're not familiar with this, what you're seeing is if the waveform, meaning the audio, looks a little different, it's the top half of what most waveforms look like in a lot of audio programs, okay? So there it is. That's me being picked up, and I'm going to stop it right now, and you're going to see a couple of things happen, okay? So the first thing that happens is that the track that I've just recorded has changed color, All right, it's now this gold color. That means that this, which is called a region, is selected. Okay, so once I start clicking around in this, it's this blue color. So once you select this region, you can do all kinds of things to it. You can edit it and turn the volume up and down and all of that. Okay, so that's one thing. You may have also noticed that when that happened, after I got done recording, it automatically adjusted something. That's because this is set to auto level. Everything in Hindenburg is about set it and forget it to make your life easy for podcasting. So if you turn the auto level feature on, what it does is it automatically adjusts it to the final level that you'll have to have it at when you want to publish it. All right, so everything is designed to make your life a bit easier. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in here. You got to get used to zooming in and out if you want to be dealing with audio. So let's just say I wanted to do a recording here. Like I'm going along, I'm doing some narration. This is a podcast with a single host, and I've made a mistake, which is going to happen. Okay. Let's say this last sentence here, and you're going to see a couple of things happen. Beautiful as that was I made a mistake. I did something wrong. Once I found the thing that I want to replace, I can put my cursor, which is the white line, in front of it, and I'm going to record just as I did before. But you're going to see that it's going to play for a couple of seconds before that, and it's automatically set up to do that. And the reason for that is that you get to hear a little bit of what you were just doing in context, so you can match yourself in the flow of time. And if you do it right, you don't have to go back and do any editing to it later. So this is called a pickup, and it's also called a punch-in. It depends on where you are. Okay, so once I hit the record button again, you'll see it's going to record with a little bit of pre-roll, and then I can keep matching myself. Picked up, and I'm going to stop it right now. And now I'm recording again, and hopefully it sounds just smashingly well. And all right. So that's how it works. Again, there's that auto level feature again. Okay, so the whole idea with this is everything is set up to be easy, so that you can focus on telling your story, less on getting bogged down in the technical details. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. But I'm sure that many of you folks will be doing more of a round table style podcast, where maybe you have 2 or 3 hosts sitting around a table, so to speak, and interviewing each other or talking with each other about whatever your podcast is about.
Jamie, why are we here?
We're here because my dad's written a porno.
Dad's written a porno.
Erotic literature.
Why? Previously on My Dad Wrote a Porno.
Jim grunted, and Belinda thought she felt something entering her pussy. Oh my God.
If you have to ask.
Did the man know he was only tickling her?
Poor Jim!
Okay. So it's sort of a company joke with us that that's the example that Nick and the company has us use at these webinars. So anyway, a roundtable discussion. Okay, so what you heard there was a few people having a chat, and that is very likely the type of podcast that you're going to end up doing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you're going to do that.
Sorry, Jonathan, I might just jump in here. We've got a question from Erica Gerard, who's asked, what if you have recorded stuff after you've punched in? Will it record over that too?
What if you have recorded stuff after you punched in?
Yep.
Meaning you've recorded a block and you want to punch in somewhere in the middle, but there's this stuff at the end of it that you want to keep. That the
Yeah, that's how I interpreted her question as well.
Okay. Why don't you? Thanks for saying yes. You can go ahead. Why don't you take that one?
Yeah, sure thing. So usually it does overwrite the region where you select where you would like to record from. So say, for instance, like if I had to face an issue like that, Erica, what I would do is that I'd make a cut from the point where you would not like to have the recording overwrite and choose that particular part of the recording and drag it across the session. So then that way you can do your punch in recording from the region where you would like to record. And then once you've made that recording through the punch-in method, then you can grab that block that you've cut out and then select it and put it back into its place where you'd like it to go. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, Jonathan, to you?
Yes. Another thing that you can do here is that you can, which we're going to get into a little bit later, using the clipboards and the favorites window, you can always just record something. You can record everything out of order and assemble it all later very easily. That's kind of, a pretty major feature that we'll get to. So I'm just going to do the old screen share one more time here. Okay. All right, so we're just going to talk a little bit about how to do this. So in this case, what you would have if you had multiple people in a room, and I know we're going to get to how, these days it's not so likely that people will be in a room at all together, but so, you have multiple microphones. How do you record that? How do you do some multi-track editing, magic levels, and incorporating music into it? So there's a lot that would go into this kind of stuff. So let's get to this. Okay, so here we have an example of one of those roundtable sessions. Okay, so one thing that we have here is that we have a number of folks talking, and sometimes they'll be overlapping each other a little bit. Okay, actually, let's start off. Sorry, kind of out of order. Let's start off with the first thing, which is that we talked about how to record on one track, right? But how would we record if we wanted to record with two tracks? Well, here I did the first thing, exactly what I did before. I selected a microphone. And here on a different track, I would do the same thing, except this time, so far I have been selecting input 1, I'd be selecting input 2. And it would just be a different microphone. And then you would just arm the tracks that you wanted to record, and you'd record just as we did before. The process is the same, you just need to select a different microphone this time, okay? So here we have these 4 folks that have been having a chat. Let's just listen to that a little bit.
I'm Stephen Liccardi. I'm a social worker, spoken word poet, and performance activist.
I'm Laura Nagel. I'm working as the Community-Based Learning Projects Manager here at the Virginia Tech Institute for Policy and Governance.
Okay. So one thing that happens when you have this style of podcast. So we had, everybody's microphones on, we press record, we just recorded the session, as it was. So what you'll notice is that here, when Bob is speaking here at the top, right? Here's Bob having a chat. Now, beneath him, Linda, Mark, and Sarah they're listening, but they're not speaking. But his audio is being picked up into their mics to some degree. And that's always going to happen because you're all in the same room, all right? Now, there are some things you can do to mitigate that anyway. But even still, it's going to be there. So you could go through the painstaking editing process of trying to lower everybody's volume when they're not speaking, so that you're getting less of that bleed, which is what it's called. And that's great. But there's this wonderful tool in Hindenburg where you can select all of the tracks. And by the way I'm going to do that is Option Command A for those folks who already have Hindenburg. But there are a few ways of doing that, okay? So I've selected all of the audio, and that's why it's gold. And I'm going to come up here to Tools, okay? Now, when I recorded before, and you saw it automatically adjusting the audio, that's this auto level feature. So here I'm going to select this magic level feature.
Sorry, Jonathan, we've just had a question from Stephanie asking, how did you select all the audio for it to turn orange?
Okay, good. So here's what it looked like normally. I did a key command here. And, I'm not sure I know how to do it without the key command, actually.
That's okay. So we've had T send in a recommendation, which will be of great help to you, Stephanie. So T has responded with Option Command A.
That's right. So that's what I did. It's Option Command A, and if you are on a Windows machine, it'd be Option Control A.
Yep. Oh, so it would just be Control A.
Control A.
Yep.
Okay. So there it is there. All right. Then when I go up to Tools menu, I'm going to select Magic Levels. Okay. And that's why we love that. So what that did is it identified where there was a person speaking and turned down the audio in other people's tracks. Now you can also individually, if there's some segment that you want to deal with later, you can go in there and individually adjust it. You can also adjust it for everybody by simply turning this up, and you'll see that it's adjusting this on everybody's track there. So that's a pretty big feature. That's a pretty big time saver. I'm just going to undo that for a second. Okay. So again, I highlighted everything, and I went up here to Tools and Magic Levels. Okay.
And we've just had a question about Magic Levels, Jonathan, where Nigel J has asked, is the damping preset to 115 dB?
I don't know that.
So that's something that we can certainly relay to support, Nigel. So, but as you can see here where Jonathan's got his screen shared, that the damping is set to a default of minus 15 decibels, but you can adjust that as the user sees fit.
So just because, it's automatically set to about half of that, I don't know, 7.5 or something like that. And as far as, I'm sorry, you're right. It is, yes, it's set to 15 decibels, but you can adjust it up to 20. And if you can customize it beyond that, I don't know.
That's something that we can certainly relay to the support staff.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about doing an edit here, okay? Because if you're going along and you're editing your parts of your podcast, you might want to be taking things out here and there before you publish it out to the world, okay? So if you wanted to do that, you can highlight an area and cut something away, okay? So what I did there was on Bob's track, so just to look at that again, I did a highlight, let's say there's something I didn't like in, Bob's track, and I wanted to cut it away. Okay. Now, if you were doing what we talked about before with a single podcast, well, then that doesn't really matter. But you did see that when I did that, it affected the time here, right? So one of the downside there is that if I just were to cut it away, well, now everything is out of sequence from my top track to the tracks below it. Okay, so one thing that you can do here is you can link tracks together. Okay, so if we have Bob's and Linda's, and I'm selecting them both by holding down Shift when I select the different tracks. So here I'm on the top track Bob, here I'm selecting Linda, here's Mark. But if I wanted to have Bob and Linda together, I can hold down Shift, and now they're both selected. And if I right click here, I can link these tracks together. And what that means now is that when I do a cut, both Bob and Linda go together. Okay, And of course, in this case, I'd probably want to select them all. So I would select all of the people here, and we would link the tracks. And then we do our cuts, and it would, okay? Just like that. So another quick way to do editing kind of all together, to do auto leveling all together for a podcast of that style.
Sorry, Jonathan. So we've just got a few questions, but before I relay them over to you, there's just a Zoom technical question, the Zoom technical issue that I have to get you to address because I don't have the hosting rights. Just because we're getting people admitted in, the bell sound's interrupting. So what you'll need to do to address that is to go to the audio settings, and then there should be a function where you can go to silence system notifications when sharing desktop. Sorry to everyone that has to hear this technical issue that's going ahead, but we'll have this amended as soon as possible. And once that's been done, I'll relay the questions over to Jonathan. Sorry about that, Jonathan.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, sorry, it's in share screen. So if you go to advanced sharing options.
Yeah, silence system notifications while
Yep.
sharing desktop. That is actually checked for me.
Oh. Okay, so unfortunately, we might just have to, just because we're on timing constraints, we just have to just have this not amended. But we want to answer your questions as soon as possible. So we'll have this issue looked at via Zoom for the later dates, because we do have a number of sessions that we're going to present over the coming months. So the questions that we had come in, Jonathan, so the first one was, when you were running that, so Timothy Riker asked, would this still work if each track was merged?
The edit the linked track function? Yeah. Yes, it would.
Great. Thanks for answering that. And then Brett has asked, does that work for split as well, so that it splits all tracks at once?
Oh, you know, I've never tried that. Let's take a look. So yeah, I'm already seeing some very nice comments about how, yes, that would save you time. Yeah. Is that ever, all these things would save you time. So here, okay. So let's back up a step. So a split point, what this means is this section of audio that I've highlighted here in this top track, Bob, if I come up here, and there are keyboard shortcuts for all this stuff, but I go over here to split, I've now turned that region into two separate regions here, okay? So I'm just gonna go back a step. The question was, can I use the link track functions to split all of the audio on the different regions, okay? So I'm just gonna link Bob and Linda together again. And so just so we're clear, this is, whoops. Let me go over here and do it. I think it's a little easier to see. Okay, so this is, so now when I click on the region, it selects both of the regions, okay? So if I go over here to split, it did indeed turn it into 4 separate regions instead of 2. So there you go. The answer to that question is yes. And hopefully that makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so just gonna get this all set up here. All right. Okay,
Charles Bolden is a former astronaut and NASA director and told us about the strategy.
During the Obama administration, we targeted Mars as the ultimate destination for humanity, but said we would spend 10 years, the decade of the 20s, in lunar orbit and then eventually down to the surface.
But why would NASA start with another moon landing instead of going straight to Mars, the real target?
Trying to make sure that the technologies that we need to push humans onto Mars are pretty well proven.
Okay, so here we're going to be talking about a phone interview, and phone should be sort of in quotes, okay? Because what we mean here is recording Skype or Zoom or something else directly into Hindenburg. So basically a remote interview of some sort. So we're going to show you the technical part of how to do that, but we also just wanted to let you know one part of this is that you wouldn't want to do an entire podcast of a phone interview, even with the tools that you're doing to clean it up. And there are some things you can do to make it less kind of harsh and have that less of that phone sound. You still wouldn't want to listen to that for an hour if possible, okay? But very likely, especially today, you're going to need to know how to do that and organizing this. There's also, just on the clarification side of things, if you've heard this term tape sync, that's a little bit different. A tape sync would be if, let's say, Helly and I were interfacing and having a chat with each other, but we were both recording locally into our, nice microphones and all of that. And then one of us sent the other one the audio file and we linked them up. That would be a tape sync. But you're not always going to be able to do that. So sometimes you're just going to be recording, directly from Skype or wherever. And you can use Skype specifically to call people's phones, okay? So let's talk about how to do that a bit. Okay. So, Helly, did you ever have this problem? Sometimes the cursor disappears and you can't do anything with the screen.
Yeah, it does. It's one of the caveats of Keynote to Zoom. I experienced this issue last Friday when I had to present to an international academic conference for a client in China. So yeah, might just have to be a bit patient. But it's a good time, actually, just to relay some questions. So Matthew Kessler has asked, I imagine everyone has different experiences, but for those that record remote interviews, which program do you find creates the best audio quality? Is it Zoom, Skype, Squadcast, et cetera, et cetera? So I guess it's really up for preference, but Jonathan, do you have a preference?
I don't. I would say that the biggest thing to do is, the biggest factor I would say for me personally would be, which interface do you like to use the most? They all have pluses and minuses, and I would say that a larger thing. So, for instance, we're using Zoom here. There are some issues sometimes with how this interfaces with that and other things like that. So we may, down the road switch to a different, sharing platform to, try something else out. That's probably a bigger thing. The audio quality is going to sound like that remote phone interview kind of audio, no matter what, unless you're doing a tape sync and getting them to really give you the audio. So I think Skype is fine. I mean, I, hear Skype used on the news and all this stuff all the time. Again, it's going to always sound like remote unless you're doing it the other way. But let's just talk about how to do it, okay? So again, with everything that we've shown you so far, hopefully we're getting across the point that the whole idea is to make your life easier. It's how to kind of take a problem and solve it with these tools. That's why it's set up in the way that it is. And so one of them is this, and what we're going to be doing is selecting a couple inputs in Hindenburg and then going over to Skype and changing some things there to say, come into this and go out of this. It's not that complicated, and hopefully it all gets sorted out. So if I can stop the share, I can't. Oh, I did it. All right. All right. Jeez. Okay. There you go. There's one of those fun technical hangups right now that we were talking about. All right. So here we are in a new Hindenburg session here, okay? A new blank session. And we're going to have a couple of tracks that we're going to deal with. By the way, I just double clicked on this. Just a recording in general thing. It's always good to rename your tracks. I'm kind of a stickler about that. That's really not part of our presentation here. It's just a management thing. So in the first track, the top track, where I said me, it's going to be pretty similar to everything that we've done so far, okay? We're going to be selecting the microphone and recording me, okay? And there I am being recorded just like we did before. Now for the Skype track, it's going to be a little bit different, okay? We're going to come down here to this same drop-down menu, and there are a number of options here. We are going to select this Soundflower option here. And we're just going to pick the stereo option for the moment, okay? So what that is that's saying we want the input of this track to be this Soundflower. Soundflower, it's also on Windows. Helly, do you mind reminding me what that, what it's called on Windows? It's not called Soundflower, it's, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I do have it on the tip of my tongue. It is, sorry, bear with me for a moment. I'll drop it in the comments, in the comment section. So I'll find that out right away.
All right. So let's go over here to Skype. So what I have here is the settings window in Skype. So if you open up Skype, now again, we're in Zoom, so we can't show it in Zoom, if that makes any sense. So that's why we're using Skype here today. And like I said at the beginning, you always have to tell an audio program, go into this and go out of this, okay? So for Skype, I've told it to use my computer microphone to be picking up my voice, and you can see that that's what it's doing there. And then for the speakers, which is its output, instead of choosing some speakers to come out of, like I could select my computer, I'm going to select the Soundflower again, okay? So now I have the Soundflower selected in Skype, and I have the input of Hindenburg selected as Soundflower as well, okay? So when I start recording, all right, you'll see that both tracks are now recording, all right? And you can see on the top track, there I am talking into the mic, and everything is just what we saw before. And the way that you can know that this is working on Skype is that I'm going to do this little bit of test audio here. Okay, that's enough of that. So going over back here in Hindenburg, we can see here that the audio has been recorded from Skype. Now that would be a person, your interview subject or whatever, having a chat with you, okay? All right, so I've done that here, and just so that we know it's real, we also want to take a listen, is that I'm going to do this little bit of test audio here. There we go. So that's how you do that and record remotely. That's a really big feature to just be able to directly do that and not have to deal with any sort of intermediary step or step in the middle. Makes your life a bit easier there. Okay, so I would imagine that we might have some questions about that.
Indeed, we do. So the first question is from Stefan, who has asked, how can we use the software and the mix audio to similar to a Rodecaster Pro?
What do you mean by
That's okay. We can, Stefan, like if you don't mind just elaborating how exactly you mean by using the software and mix the audio as such, that would be great. And we've also had just a couple of other comments, just about thanks to the audio hijack suggestion from Andy. And we've had actually a couple of people ask if you can just do that one more time, if that's possible.
Sure. Yeah. I'll just go through that one again. The audio hijack. Yes, we were. That's a great suggestion. That was a suggestion from somebody about how to transfer the audio? It's a great suggestion. We just had a technical hiccup with that, so that's why we're not doing that there. But can everybody hear everything okay? Maybe we should do a little reaction from everybody. If they can give a thumbs up, if they can hear when we're playing things in Hindenburg, if they can hear it and the webinar.
Yeah, just there's already a lot of people saying yes and giving their thumbs up. There's people that have shared their videos and just to give a thumbs up as well. So it's all good. So I guess we could just keep rolling, Jonathan, just because we've got close to about 20 minutes left. So I'm just a bit wary about time constraints. And also just to let people know as well, that we will be running a Q&A at the end of the session as well. So I'm sorry if we are missing your questions at the moment, but we can address them when we go to the Q&A section.
Okay. Yes, thanks for everybody's patience. There just happened to be, quite a lot of people for this this session here today. Okay, so here we are again. Here's our Hindenburg session. Okay, and we are selecting. There are 2 tracks. It's a new session. Okay, so I'm not going to do the renaming, but I would rename them. So that's the top track is the one where it's recording my voice. You can see it being picked up there in blue, and the bottom track is going to be where we're going to record the Skype call, okay? So here in this drop-down menu where we selected the microphones, we're going to select it again. And instead of picking, this is what I'm using for my local microphone, we're gonna pick this sound flower option here. And we're gonna choose the stereo version of it, okay? So the Soundflower is what is allowing Skype and Hindenburg to communicate together. So then you would go into Skype, sorry, okay? And in Skype, and this is just the preferences. So if you were to see a different screen in Skype, you just have to go to the audio preferences or the preferences in general, okay? Where you'd have, general, appearance, etc. And we're going to audio and video, okay? Don't want to do that. You'll get a video and video thing there. It gets a little crazy. So in the audio part of Skype, you can select a microphone that you're going to be speaking into Skype with. And for now, I've just picked my computer and that's it, picking it up there. And the speakers is the output, okay? So I could select my local speakers that I'm hearing the audio through, or in this drop-down menu, we could select Soundflower, okay? And we're gonna do that, select this same Soundflower. And now when we go into Hindenburg, we've got the 2 tracks on and ready to go. Okay, I'm gonna record. Sorry, just gonna go back to the beginning here. I'm gonna record, and both tracks are recording, okay? And you see me being picked up on the top track. Now, the bottom track is recording, but no audio has come into it just yet, which is why you don't see anything there, okay? But you see my audio being picked up just as we did before, all right? And I'm gonna go back over to Skype here, okay? And I'm gonna play this little test clip of audio because we're obviously not on a Skype call at the moment. And then you'll see it being picked up in Hindenburg. Okay, so that's the idea there. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to everybody. We've got to move on to a number of other cool features and all of that. So we've got to move on, but that's how to do it. And it is quite a handy tool, to be honest, for producing a podcast and just recording remotely, which is I'm on some podcast forums and things, and for the past 8 months or so, you know, if there has been any question asked specifically over and over again, it's what is the best way to record remotely? Okay. So we're going to move on. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. Okay. Okay. So, all right, doing the screen share. All right.
The Bank of England has been very heavily involved in the response to the Leave vote. Let's hear a clip now from Mark Carney, the bank's governor, just after the Leave vote was officially announced.
We've taken all the necessary steps to prepare for today's events, and in the future, we will not hesitate to take any additional measures required to meet our responsibilities as the United Kingdom moves forward. Thank you very much.
Any additional measures required? What will those measures be? What has the Bank of England been doing, and what can we expect it to do?
One, it's likely that they're going to cut interest rates. They're already very low, but they can probably cut a little.
Okay, so what we heard there was a news style segment, meaning you had a few different things happen. You had an interviewer with an interview subject, and you're cutting back and forth between them. So you folks who have worked on podcasts have been well familiar with the world of editing and putting things together and all of that. And it can be extremely time consuming to do this. So we're going to talk about some ways that Hindenburg's been set up to make your life a bit easier with all of that, with recording your interview, editing it, how to use the clipboards to easily make a montage out of it in your news segment. Okay, so. But for the moment, we're just going to hang out here and look at these beautiful images because my cursor is gone. And
just as you're doing that and figuring out your presentation, Jonathan, we've just had a couple of people ask about Big Sur and how Hindenburg has been acting towards the latest Apple update. So there doesn't seem to be many issues, but what I've done is that I've just added in the chat box a review from radio technologist James Cridland, who provides a very comprehensive overview on how Hindenburg operates in Big Sur. So feel free to click on the link that I've provided on that.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay.
And we've just had Richard just say that he's looking forward to the clipboard function because he hasn't used it for 13 months.
Oh no, you should use it right now. Well, let's start here. Okay, so here we are in Hindenburg. And if you just forgive me for a sec, just got to resize some things to make my life a little bit easier here. Okay, so with when doing this in Zoom, you have to manage all the stuff. All right, so here we are. Now we've already talked about recording recording something and all of that. So over here, for those unfamiliar, this is the clipboard, and what the idea with this is when you're editing and you're taking bits and pieces of different segments and saving them, this is really an organizational tool, okay? And the idea is that you're going to take things in and out of the clipboard to construct your file and kind of piece it all together, all right? And you can name the different groups that you have there. For instance, you could have a very complicated podcast with different ambient sounds and bits of music and having intros and outros for everything. And that can be a lot to deal with, especially if the way that you were doing it before was you were recording, editing something, putting it maybe at the end of a track having to go back, it turns into a nightmare very quickly. So we actually have a bit of audio here in this clipboard, okay? This is an interview that we've done, and you can hear what it is by clicking and pressing down on this play icon.
Okay, great. So,
okay. So once it's in a clipboard, you can take it and drag it out of it right into the track like that, okay? Another thing, just a little detail here with the clipboard, is if you right click inside of it, you can import something directly into the clipboard, okay? So here we have this bit of audio. This is an interview, all right? And
so I'll probably hold the mic about right here. If that works for you, okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Just name?
Yeah, my name is Simon Ackermans from Utrecht.
so let's just say for our example that we wanted to just have him say, my name is Simon, da 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 da. And we were going to take that segment and kind of isolate everything that we want from him and not keep the parts that we don't want. There are a few ways that you can do that. And everybody works a little bit differently. You can separate these, you can do these in and out markers, which is basically the same as selecting a clip, okay? Such as doing this. Or we could do this split point thing that we did before. And so what I did was I clicked and I dragged over a highlighted section. And you could also do this by setting the in and out markers. So when you click and drag and you make this highlight, there's a red, which means, a green, which means, you know, go, and a red that means stop. When you, so I'm doing that by clicking and dragging. You could also, instead of doing that, find the place that you want to be and put the in marker. Sorry, I'll just make this clear. You could say, okay, I want to start my clip here, and then I'm pressing I, and then I want to end my clip here, and I'm pressing O, in and out. It's the same thing, okay? And then once we have the section that we wanted to have, okay, so we could do that split point, and now we have these different regions. Now, let's say we wanted to do this, if you might have 2 or 3 interviews and you want to assemble it for later. We're going to take those segments, and we're just going to drag them into our clipboard, and then we have them for later, okay? And by the way, quick tip there, if you wanted to drag them and leave this alone, meaning you're basically making a copy, you hold down Option and do the dragging, okay? So I'm holding down Option, and then I'm dragging it into the clipboard, okay? And those are the different segments here, which we can listen to.
Well, we started way back when we were like...
So you could do all of this editing, okay? And you can also, and I would highly recommend you do this in real life, is you double click on this and you rename your interview or whatever you want to say, okay? Okay. Then when you are ready to do some assembling and putting your podcast together later, you can just drag these clips out very easily and assemble them and put them all together and put them on different tracks and all of that, okay? And again, with these different groups in the clipboard, you can rename the groups what you would like. You can add or take away groups and other menus and things which we won't get into now. You know, for instance, music. And you could have all of these different clips of music that you then bring in and out of the file, okay? So that's the basis of the tools of how you would use the clipboards, okay? And there's another tool here that I'm just going to bring up, which some of you have seen, which is the favorites window, okay? So the favorites window works very similar to the clipboard, with one big difference, okay? By the way, if you were, let's say you were doing this and we're editing and we're keeping our podcast, you know, happening here, and we just had this track there. Well, maybe we don't want to deal with it for the moment, but we might want to bring clips out of it again. That's why we'd mute it, okay? So the difference between the favorites window and the clipboard is just that the favorites window, if I were to open up a new session, there's not going to be anything saved in my clipboard, and the favorites window is going to have whatever you leave in there is going to be there for the next session. So the reason that that can be handy is, let's say I had a piece of music like this one right here in my favorites window, right? It's going to go back to the beginning and play this piece of music. Okay. Now, you could do all kinds of editing to that piece of music too. And let's say you did that editing and you did that and you came up with your intro. Let's say it just looked like this. Did fades and other things, which we'll get to later. Instead of having to edit it every time from, import your track of music, you could just have it saved, intro, outro, or whatever other bumpers and parts that you want, for your podcast. Okay, so those are the tools. Again, the whole idea is that it's all set up to just be like grab, go, put it over here, do that, very easy. All right, and I am trying to be mindful of the time, so we'll just move on. All right. Are there any pressing questions, Helly?
No, we'll just keep it rolling. So I've just stated in the chat box, everyone, that just due to the constraints of time, that we'll answer all your questions during the Q&A section, and we'll devote at least 5 minutes to having everybody's questions answered. And also as well, this session is recorded and will be available on demand. So we'll ensure to post this on our Facebook page in the coming days as well.
Okay, so here we are. Okay, features and drama.
Ladies and gentlemen, Metro Airways Flight 566 is now ready for boarding at Gate 16. Metro Airways Flight 566 now boarding Gate 16.
People travel a great deal more around the world than they used to, and animals travel as well. Those two simple facts mean that deadly viruses will appear here, and they'll kill or maim Australians.
Okay, so what you can see there is a file that looks like the file we were just looking at, but it's more complicated. But you would know how to do this. You would have, you could save your cast of people here. You could have all of your different ambient sounds, and you can layer them, have, different clips of music and all of that. So the sessions can get basically as elaborate as you would like. Okay, so some of the things that we can talk about here, we're just going to go over a couple of them very briefly before we're going to get right to the Q&A, okay? Which have to do with, oh, come on. All right, so a couple of features real quick, and then we'll get to the Q&A. All right, so let's say we had our bits of sound that we were working on, and we talked in the beginning about this icon here with the effects, okay? So this falls into the idea of tidying up the sound, all right? So what we have here are different effects that we can use. And so we have an EQ, compressor, some meters, and also all of these things here. These are all extra effects that I have for other music programs, and Hindenburg just finds them automatically. So your VST plugins will be found here, and you can use them if you wanted to. But it comes with these ones on top, and probably the most useful is this noise reduction, which is a filter to eliminate background noise. And that is very, very useful when cleaning up a track. Maybe it is one of those remote recording tracks, or there's a little bit of scuffle in the background or something that you recorded.
Right here, that works for you, okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Just, okay. And what it will do is it will analyze the track and get rid of some of that background noise. We have a great example of this we sometimes use, which is like an extremely noisy track that you turn this up and it cuts the background noise away. But I want to move on to talk about the voice profiler just very briefly. And so next to this, there's a drop-down menu here, which has this voice profiler component here, okay? So the voice profiler, what it does is if there is a segment of audio where the quality of your voice is what you want, and you would like to emulate that for future recordings and to keep it consistent, it will learn.
Yeah, my name is Simon Akkermans from Utrecht.
It will learn that profile, which you can then save, okay? And when you open up another track or another session and all this, you can apply the profile. There's me, and I'll apply that here. It says you've applied it. And then when I go in my effects, it's right there, okay? So it's a way to keep consistency from project to project. And with that, we are going to open it up to Q&A as much as we can, and talk a little bit about some of the pricing and all of that. Or just, I'll leave this screen up here so you guys can check it out. Okay, so here, by the way, we can just get right to questions, but just so that we're clear about it, like I was talking about Journalist Pro and was doing the demo on Journalist Pro. Journalist is a different version of the software. And if you're curious, HABC is the audiobook software, so it's set up to be specific for audiobooks. So, that being said, any questions?
Yes, we've got a fair few, Jonathan. So I'm going to start off with Dorian. So Dorian has asked, when editing a two-person interview with each speaker on their own track, is it best to eliminate the non-speaking portion of each track? Or is it okay to just leave everything there unless there's unwanted sound?
So in that case, the two people were in the same room together, or you've taken just two separate audio tracks and done what, like a tape sync?
I guess I guess you could answer in both scenarios. If you were presented in that situation, Jonathan, like how would you approach it?
I mean, that is kind of the idea of the magic levels, again, to make your life easy, and you can adjust that as just the taste as you like, I guess. I'm just going to open that session up again, just so that we can look at that a little bit. Okay, and do a screen share. So, excuse me.
It's okay. As you're doing that, Jonathan, I can answer a question from Richard. So Richard has asked, what is a music report? So a music report in Hindenburg is a function that generates all the music that you've used in your file. So if you have either royalty-free music, or if you're using tracks that have track IDs, you can either A, manually input them yourself, or B, the music files will automatically register that into Hindenburg. And if you're publishing your podcast or your presentation of some sort to a host server, and if you have to report the music that you use, that music report function helps to be able to submit that data to any royalty company that you need to submit your music files to. So then that way the musicians who do appear in the package, they get paid their royalties, and that way that's where the music report function helps to collate all that data together. And we've also had okay, so Stefan has asked, why does Hindi keep closing after I drop 3.5 gigabyte WAV files? I'm not entirely that sure, Stefan, from my end. I haven't experienced any issues personally from that. I mean, that could be particularly your RAM on your machine. But Jonathan, is that something that you may add to that? Because again, for me, I've never had that issue.
I've also not had that issue. I would say I would reach out to Hindi support, and they can maybe talk about the specs of your machine there and get into the specific thing. And hopefully, if there is an issue that can be sorted out, hopefully they can do it. So to answer the other question, here we have our music file, our file here, and I'm just going to go up and do that magic levels bit again. Okay, so that's what I would do, and again, you can adjust this here to adjust the rate, more. Now after that, what it's also done is it's made these into these well, you already have these individual regions here. So what I would do is I would let's say the beginning of this bit here, before Bob starts speaking, if you wanted to adjust something there, or I don't know, fade it in or whatever, you have these options to do that there. You could also add a split point wherever you wanted to, and edit it away there or take it out. But the idea with the auto level is just to save you some time there of doing that, so that you wouldn't have to go through and edit it again. If it's this scenario where it's like room bleed is sort of part of the sound to some degree, I think these sound just fine. Obviously a remote or a tape sync style where you're where everyone's been recorded separately and you're putting it together, I would edit out all the parts that are not needed personally.
Cool, thanks for sharing that, Jonathan. So we've also had Matthew Truesmith ask, how do you delete a vocal profile that you have made?
Let's see here. Delete the profile that you have made. I haven't done. So have you done?
Yeah, I think it's just as simple as hitting right click over your voice profile and just deleting it. So in case if you've made a voice profiler, and say as time has progressed and you're not happy with the way that your voice has sounded, yeah, you can just delete it and make the necessary adjustments on the voice profile plugin if you needed to use it. So I know that I'm pretty sure I've done that for a project that I had to do about 1.5 years ago, but I haven't had the need to do it again. But it is possible for you to delete it, and if you need to do so, it should be a quick and painless edit to make.
I have to be honest, I'm not seeing where to do that.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. That's something that we could also relay to support as well. So, yeah, so sorry we can't answer your question there, Matthew, but we can definitely relay that to support as well. We've got a bit more of an advanced question from Alan Tokars, who has asked, how do I cut audiophonic out from my workflow? So is that something that you're familiar with, Jonathan?
Say it again.
How do I cut audiophonic out of my workflow?
Audiophonic. I am not familiar. I don't know what you mean. Sorry.
That's okay. So, Alan, you could always relay your questions as well to hindenburg.com/support. and then we can have one of the support team members be able to provide some insight on how you would go about that. So we've had Jamie ask, if I am creating a montage of audio files from different Hindenburg project files, is there a way to create a trailer? And if so, what is the best or fastest way to do this?
Is there a way to create a trailer?
Yeah, so they've just said that, yeah, maybe it is best to create a trailer. So I guess, I mean, I'm not sure if that'd be the best, but do you have any insight into this?
Yeah, let's just look at one thing here real quick. Okay. So here's that same session, right? And here we have our clipboards and things. And I'm gonna bring up the favorites window again. There are a few ways to do this depending on exactly what you mean, but let's just do this for the moment. Because the favorites window, as you see, this is a different session than we looked at last time, but the same things are here, right? So I just want to get this out of the way for the moment. So let's say I'm going to click and drag over some different segments of audio here and hold shift while I do it. Okay, that's the marquee tool. All right. And so I've selected some bits of audio, but I haven't selected everything. I've just selected these bits that I'm just going to get rid of the clipboards for a sec, just so we can see it a bit. Sorry for this screen thing. I just have to resize it with you know, the Zoom screen. So here we have that, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to option drag the entire segment into the clipboard, okay? And if we were to open up a new session, in theory, should be able to drag that all out into our new our tracks here. Okay, so you highlight a number of different tracks. I'm assuming this is what you meant, and you put them into the favorites window, and then we pulled them out into the new session, and there they are in your different tracks. So now again, you could get very elaborate with that. You could have an entire, you know, I don't know exactly what you're doing, but you could have, you know, a lot of different projects or pieces to projects, and you could have it all be, you know, kind of easy assemble like that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jonathan. I guess for people who are making podcasts or if they're creating their radio packages on different Hindenburg sessions, that's where the favorites function can come in really well. So in case if you have stings or if you've got announcements, you've just got that one destination where whatever new session that you open up, having that favorites box with all your audio files ready to go streamlines the workflow. So I hope that answers your question, Jamie. So we've just got a couple of minutes left. So I'm just going to only answer one more question. Ask one more question. That's from Mary. So Mary has asked, how do I save my intro and outro music on the clipboard so that I can easily find it for each new episode of my podcast? So I guess that kind of carries over to favorites as well, right, Jonathan?
Yes. So the easiest way to do that is don't save it on your clipboard. Save it into the favorites window, just like we did before. And then you open it up, favorites, you just go, boom, there's my intro music, you know, any of that. You can actually do that, like open up save clipboard sessions file session to session. But if it's something like intro music and outro stuff, and you just saw me do it there, highlighting a number of different tracks, I would definitely do that.
Great. Look, it looks like we have
labeled everything. So it's like, you know what you're looking at.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Jonathan. I believe, so it's, in Berlin, it's 8:30 in the evening. So that concludes our presentation for today. I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending today's session, wherever you are in the world. And a big thanks to Jonathan for doing a stellar job with presenting today. And we are going to be doing a round of Hindenburg sessions online. So do keep your eyes peeled for all the notifications for our upcoming webinars. And also this session is recorded, and we will be having this available to view on demand. So once again, a big thanks to Jonathan, and thank you everybody for attending today's